Hey everyone, welcome to the next edition of Wolfecast Weather. We are on the eve of the big event. The party has already gotten started out down south. That's really where more of the potentially historic impacts are going to be with the ice, with the infrastructure that's more vulnerable there. But let's dig into what we're going to have here in Cleveland. So just wanted to start with just look at how massive this storm is. And again, it's being driven by really cold air in place over most of the country. We were down to 3 degrees this morning, and that cold air is dense. It's stubborn. It sits at the surface, and we have warm air essentially being pushed up over that cold air that acts like a wedge, pushing that warm air up and forming this massive shield of a storm. You can see there's also like a low pressure element over the Baja Peninsula that's also kind of invigorating this system. But really the focus is the cold air and warm air running up over that cold air at the surface. So just another image of the magnitude of this storm. So most of the country has some form of a warning right now, which it's rare to see just this amount of the country covered. And so let's take a look at some of the models of what's going to happen. So I'll run through the loop real quick just for Cleveland, and then we'll point some other things out. So looks like,
Early morning hours after midnight, the snow starts, and then really through most of the day, we stay in the snow the whole time. And then it's 8-9 p.m. when the storm wraps up. But now, what's really interesting is you have this massive area of pink, that's the freezing rains and sleets, because what we have with this low pressure is something called the warm nose. So the low pressure is rotating counterclockwise, and so on the east side, that's where that moist air is really being driven up from the south, and so it's able to displace the cold air enough that, man, we're getting some rain and some of that freezing rain and sleet into the areas like DC, which used to be, early in the week we were thinking all snow. Now this is going to be a more tricky forecast. So looking at the total snowfall here, this is kind of showing a loop over time from this model. And I thought this was interesting because I know a lot of folks thinking, church tomorrow morning, what should we do? This is, showing three or so inches in the Cleveland area at this time. And one thing also neat I wanted to point out is this is saying a 10-to-1 snow to liquid ratio. What that means is, imagine for 1 inch of rain, that would equal 10 inches of snow. That's a kind of a standard. Because it's going to be so cold, that ratio is actually going to be expanded. So it might be more like 20 inches of snow to 1 inch of rain. And we're not supposed to get that 1 inch equivalent of liquid, so it's not going to be 20 inches of snow, but just that's going to expand the possibility of some of the higher snow totals. So just flip back real quick. Again, think about warm air overrunning cold air and why that's causing the freezing rain. I thought this was kind of a cool graphic. So imagine this is the south on the left, north on the right. In Cleveland here, that warm, moist air is coming, but it never gets below freezing. So we just have snow the whole time. Whereas when you're getting a little bit further south, the warm air comes enough into the cold air that there's a layer of melting where that snow melts to rain, and then it has enough cold air to fall back through that it can refreeze. That's your sleet that you see. When that cold air that is only right at the surface and it's very thin, that's when there's not enough time for that melted snow, that rain, to freeze into ice. So it only freezes when it hits the surface that's below freezing. So essentially that's kind of the difference between the snow, the sleet, and the freezing rain, is that thickness of the warm air and cold air that it's going through. So National Weather Service is what I usually rely on for my forecast of how much snow we're going to get. So right now, they do an awesome job. There's a lot of great information they have. Right now, they're calling about 10 inches in Cleveland. There's going to be more as you move to the south and east and get into the heaviest bands of snow. But I think 10 inches is probably about right. I like to, think, all right, well, if we get at least 6, I'll be happy. But there's definitely some good upside opportunity there. And so I know we've got viewers in some of the other big cities. So I wanted to hop over to DC. DC, we've got about 8 inches is what they're calling, although they're really highlighting how variable that total might be. If the storm track goes to the north, they might get a lot less snow and more of that sleet. If it goes to the south and they stay in snow the whole time, they could easily surpass this total. So DC is one of those really tricky forecasts right now where they're right on that kind of snow, freezing rain line. Moving to New York, we're looking at, 10, 11 inches. They might deal with that warm nose a little bit and get some sleet, but probably will stay mostly snow. So pretty similar totals to Cleveland. And then Pittsburgh, the real kind of in the winning area where it's going to stay snow the whole time. It's going to be in heavy precipitation the whole time. So could easily see over a foot. So with that, we'll keep checking in on this storm. It's a huge one. That's why I think it's so exciting because so many people are getting a piece of this. We'll get to enjoy it over the next, 24 to 36 hours.